Ethan Graves flaunted wealth he never earned, while Dr. Marcus Ellery earned trust he never deserved. One was a fake millionaire who scammed the world with rented jets and empty promises. The other was a beloved humanitarian hiding a secret darker than anyone imagined. But when Ethan's empire of lies crumbled, it didn't just expose a fraud, it pulled back the curtain on a global trafficking ring orchestrated by a man praised for saving lives. His website was sleek, his business cards embossed with gold, but none of it was real. Their legal team, doing routine due diligence, couldn't verify the startup's incorporation. He wore a white tuxedo, sipping champagne under fairy lights strung over the marina. When officers cuffed him in front of dozens of influencers, no one believed it was real. Cameras kept rolling, assuming it was a prank. No tax records, no filings, not even a registered office. Dozens of fake passports, encrypted USB drives. His financial fraud stretched across continents, involving millions. But what they found inside one of his hidden properties near Marbella, Spain, shifted the focus entirely. Password-protected folders revealed contracts signed under duress, transferring consent for employment, travel, and asset seizure. The language was clinical and legally vague, but the intent was clear. The logistics, documentation, and security measures pointed to a larger network, possibly one Ethan didn't fully control. Names began to surface in metadata: usernames, payment routing codes, aliases that appeared too often to be coincidence. One codey name kept appearing over and over: the broker. It became clear Ethan wasn't at the top. He was a middle link in a chain that ran much deeper. Ethan's empire was more than a con. He had created a pipeline for human trafficking, masked by the digital fog of shell corporations and false luxury. The villa, shielded behind a private gate and false ownership records, was supposed to be another luxury hideout. A handful of fake tech events were hosted in places like Istanbul, Dubai, and Kuala Lumpur, locations known for lax visa oversight. Victims were tagged as interns, brand reps, or assistants, moved discreetly from one project to the next. The sender claimed to be a survivor, someone who had escaped from Ethan's network and could verify the darker parts of the operation. She called herself Lena, a pseudonym chosen to protect her identity. Her account was harrowing and unlike anything investigators had heard so far. Instead, it became the center of an international criminal investigation. Yet as agents began cataloging his crimes, one investigator noticed something strange in the list of employees for Ethan's fake company names that matched missing persons cases in multiple countries. Further inspection revealed a disguised doorway leading to a second basement, sealed with biometric locks. The role offered a glamorous life, travel with celebrities, access to the fashion industry, and a generous salary. The company branding matched one of Ethan's shell corporations, complete with a sleek website and testimonials from supposed former employees. After a brief online interview, she was sent first-class tickets to Istanbul, along with a contract written in legal jargon that seemed legitimate. After hours of carefully forced entry, they uncovered a cold, concrete room lit by flickering industrial lights. It was nothing like the lavish house above. This space was stark, clinical, and filled with something unexpected: racks of servers humming softly, rows of hard drives cataloged and labeled, and drawers packed with fake IDs, passports, and forged travel documents. That's when the story changed. Ethan Graves wasn't just a con artist. He was the key to something far more sinister. When they confronted Ethan, he vanished. His phone went dead, his Instagram wiped, and the rented mansion he'd called home for 2 years was suddenly empty. The firm reported their findings to Interpol, and a red flag was issued across European banking networks. The private jets were rented by the hour for staged photo shoots. Dozens of USBs and SD cards contained hours of surveillance video, some showing people confined to rooms, others being moved between locations. A chilling pattern emerged. Every person captured on camera had been reported missing at some point over the last 5 years. Their identities matched the same employees Ethan had listed on his fake payroll to justify massive offshore wire transfers. The luxury cars belonged to dealerships offering influencer discounts in exchange for tags. Even his fans were fake bots bought in bulk to inflate his follower count. Still, the illusion worked. Dozens of hopeful investors wired money to his holding company, expecting returns that never came. What began as the fall of a con artist became the takedown of a monster hidden behind a saint's mask. Ethan Graves was a man who sold an illusion so convincing, The world bought it without hesitation. He wore confidence like a tailored suit, always flashing a perfect smile, always saying the right thing. His Instagram was a shrine to excess: helicopter rides over Monaco, dinners with actors, designer bags delivered like pizza. His story was simple: a college dropout who struck gold in cryptocurrency and now wanted to help others win big. He offered mentorships, investment packages, and exclusive access to his AI trading platform. He claimed his startup had been acquired by a Fortune 500 firm. People believed him: investors, influencers, even journalists. He spoke at tech summits and posed beside real CEOs, always managing to slip into VIP areas where no one questioned his presence. The unraveling began when a London-based venture firm attempted to purchase shares in Ethan's fandom company. FBI agents caught up to Ethan 3 weeks later at a yacht party in Miami where he was posing as a guest speaker for a financial literacy event. But once in custody, authorities began peeling back the layers of his life. Bank accounts linked to shell corporations. After Ethan's arrest, authorities expected to wrap the case with charges of fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. During the search, agents stumbled upon a curious detail: a marble wall in the basement that rang hollow when tapped. At first glance, it seemed like a sophisticated digital fraud operation, but one cabinet held footage that made even seasoned agents pause. Forensics experts worked around the clock to analyze the contents. Agents discovered flight logs showing victims being moved under the guise of business travel. What shocked investigators most was the coordination. This wasn't a one-man operation. The investigation took a sharp turn when agents received an encrypted message from a European advocacy group that specialized in human trafficking recovery. Lena had been lured by a job advertisement posted on a high-end freelance platform. Upon arrival, the illusion quickly dissolved. Instead of a job orientation, she was taken to a private apartment with barred windows. Her passport and phone were taken. She was told to wait for further instructions. Days turned to weeks. She was eventually moved to another location, this time in Serbia, under the constant supervision of men who spoke little and carried weapons. She realized then that there was no job. She was being passed along, like inventory. Lena's escape happened during a chaotic transition. She was being transported to Prague when one of the guards stopped at a roadside restaurant. On the surface, it was a respected group with operations in over 20 countries, offering medical aid, refugee support, and disaster relief. The dates of the donations often coincided with the disappearance of individuals linked to Ethan's fake business ventures. More chillingly, shipping manifests from Ellery Foundation's overseas deliveries included items unrelated to aid: high-tech surveillance gear, biometric scanners, and unlisted containers routed through private airstrips. One whistleblower, a former logistics officer, revealed that some medical supply crates had secret compartments. Its founder, Dr. Marcus Ellery, was a celebrated philanthropist, often featured in global media for his work in war-torn regions. Prosecutors faced an uphill battle. Ellery's legal team, backed by some of the world's most powerful firms, began to challenge every piece of evidence. They claimed the data was tampered with, the witnesses unreliable, and the international laws surrounding the investigation were violated. Behind closed doors, diplomats quietly urged restraint. There were rumors that Ellery had compromising information on political figures who had once supported or worked with his foundation. What they found confirmed the worst. Dr. Ellery was the broker. Ethan was sentenced to 36 years, his cooperation shaving years off what would have otherwise been a life sentence. But for investigators, justice felt incomplete. Several aliases remained unresolved. Victims were still missing. Bank accounts containing millions vanished days before Ellery's arrest. And traces of communication hinted that someone else might have stepped in to fill the void he left behind. In exchange for reduced charges, he began offering access codes, offshore account details, and names of others involved. Some proved valuable, leading to further arrests in Morocco, Malaysia, and Eastern Europe. Others, disturbingly, were already dead. Ethan painted a picture of a global network that ran deeper than anyone expected. He admitted he'd started with scams, but when he met Ellery, the game changed. The money, the travel, the access, it all came with one condition: obedience. There were internal memos using euphemisms like replacements, relocations, and contracted assets. Victims weren't just trafficked, they were categorized, evaluated, and sometimes even auctioned to undisclosed buyers through encrypted dark web platforms. But from the governments and corporations that had failed to notice or had chosen to look away. Public protests erupted in cities where Ellery's foundation once operated, and journalists uncovered stories of employees who had raised concerns only to be silenced or fired. One of the recovered hard drives confirmed these claims. It contained video files, transaction logs, and private chat forums masked under AI research projects and donor communication platforms. Worse still, he had ties to government officials and high-ranking figures in multiple countries, some of whom had invested in his foundation or praised it publicly. Behind his mask of compassion was the architect of a global trafficking network that preyed on the vulnerable under the guise of humanitarian aid. He used his charity's international status to bypass customs, fast-track visas, and move people unnoticed through diplomatic channels. They were trapped not just by physical force, but by digital manipulation. Their online identities were rewritten, their social accounts deleted or altered to make it seem like they had willingly disappeared. His polished image shattered overnight. Donors pulled out, allies distanced themselves, and survivors began coming forward with stories that confirmed his role in their suffering. The arrest was swift, but quiet, carried out at night, with minimal press. Authorities feared the scope of what might come next. If someone like Ellery could run such a vast operation unnoticed, who else might still be out there? Using the moment, she fled into a nearby forest and hid for hours before making her way to a train station. But perhaps most important was her knowledge of a higher power within the operation, a man no one saw, but everyone feared. His presence lingered in digital shadows and traceable emails, anonymous voice messages, and encrypted fund transfers. Unlike Ethan, who craved fame and flaunted wealth, the broker operated with precision and silence. Every trace of him was intentionally vague, buried under layers of false identities and proxy accounts. But the breakthrough came from an unexpected angle: charity donations. He arranged the pickups, the routes, the cover stories. Lena had only heard him referred to by one name, the broker, and according to her, even Ethan took orders from him. A sympathetic employee noticed her distress and contacted a local NGO, which later confirmed her identity with authorities. Her testimony revealed a chilling truth. Many of the victims were selected based on vulnerability: young, isolated, often from unstable economic backgrounds. Most were women, but not all. Lena's evidence helped law enforcement link Ethan's company to at least 15 confirmed missing persons cases across 5 countries. With Lena's testimony in hand, investigators turned their attention to the elusive figure known only as the broker. A forensic accountant working the case noticed several large donations made by Ethan's companies to a global humanitarian organization called the Ellery Foundation. But when financial records were cross-referenced, a disturbing pattern emerged. Investigators moved quickly. Surveillance was placed on Dr. Ellery, and his encrypted communication devices were seized. His office in Geneva contained files with coded references to hundreds of victims, along with routing documents that mirrored the travel patterns uncovered in Ethan's basement server. The public exposure of Dr. Ellery sent shockwaves through international media. The arrest of Dr. Marcus Ellery marked the collapse of a carefully constructed empire. But the aftermath was anything but simple. Meanwhile, Ethan Graves was eager to cut a deal. Ethan described Ellery not as a partner, but as a commander. Every movement was approved. Every lie had a purpose. As more survivors came forward, international outrage grew. Human rights organizations demanded accountability, not just from Ellery and Ethan. Ellery was eventually convicted on multiple counts of human trafficking, organized crime, and conspiracy. He received a life sentence without parole. The story that began with a fake millionaire's arrest ended with a chilling truth. The most dangerous criminals don't always hide in the shadows. They hide in plain sight, draped in luxury, charity, and applause.